Thank you all so much for joining us. Good morning again. Welcome to Humanizing the Online Course. As Alex said, I am Brandolyn Jones, Professor of Education, and I am so privileged to be co-presenting on this panel with my esteemed colleagues, Professor Esme Martinez-Maldonado, Professor of Chemistry, and Dr. Maria G., Professor of Government. So our presentation is grounded in the research and work of Dr. Michelle Pacansky-Brock. She is a faculty development coordinator at Foothill College in California. The particular research article that we're using, the link, the technologists that we have with us who are super amazing, they're going to actually drop the link to the article in the chat so that you can read her work at your leisure. So, according to Pacansky-Brock, in humanized online classrooms, positive student-instructor relationships are prioritized and serve as the connective tissue between students' engagement and rigor. And Pacansky-Brock, she posits these 4 principles that are involved in humanized teaching: presence, awareness, empathy, and trust. I'm going to briefly give you an overview of each of the principles, and then we're going to move into sharing some very practical and tangible ways in which we work to fully actualize these principles in our asynchronous courses. Okay, so beginning with present. So presence involves us as instructors maintaining an active voice and being a consistent source of support for our students throughout the course. So from day one to the end of the course. Awareness. Awareness involves us getting to know our students on a deeper level. So getting to know more than just their first and last names. So building that personal relationship with our students throughout the course. Empathy. I like to think of empathy as walking a mile in our students' shoes. Now, Pacansky-Brock, she describes this as seeing our course and not only our course in terms of navigation, but seeing our course expectations also through the lens of our students. And then finally, trust. Trust is the thread that connects all 4 of the principles together. And trust involves us as instructors letting down our guard. Sometimes we tend to present this polished, perfected view of our students all the time, and that's not how life really works. We all have good days, we have bad days, and it's okay to let our students see that part of us. And so Pacansky-Brock, she cites this phrase called selective vulnerability in the article. And so again, that's just giving students a glimpse into who we are outside of our professional capacity, outside of our professional role as instructor, doctor, president, chancellor, so forth, if you are an administrator who also teaches, because we do have some that continue to teach. Okay, so now we're moving into the practical piece. And we've gotten the theoretical portion out of the way, and we're going to share, again, ways in which we incorporate those principles into our courses. And we're going to begin with Professor Esme Martinez-Maldonado. She's going to share how she incorporates the liquid syllabus. I'll join you again with talking about the inclusive survey and how I use that to get to know my students on a deeper level. And then we'll wrap up with course presence with Dr. Maria G.
Morning, everyone. So I just dropped in the chat a few links. So you can start perusing those if you want to, or you can just follow along and look at them later. I also have QR codes that are going to show up. Not yet, but they're going to show up. So just prefacing to, if you want to, you can be ready, open those up, or if you want to, you can just follow along. So what is important, what is unique about the liquid syllabus? So in the framework, the Humanizing Online Courses framework, the main idea is to build connection between yourself and the student. And typically with the syllabus, you don't think, oh, I am gonna build a strong connection with my student with this document that basically has policies and rules to follow. It can be intimidating for students to see a syllabus, right? So the liquid syllabus is kind of trying to do the opposite of that, trying to build a connection, trying to build some trust there. And it starts by being, and I just see that I sent the link to only the host and panelists, but I think Harrison just sent everything. So thank you, Harrison. Okay, so this liquid syllabus should be emailed. Let's say if you adopt it, right? It should be emailed prior to the course beginning, which a lot of people already do, right? But you'll see the benefits to a liquid syllabus, why it would be easy for students to access even before the course starts, how it's easier in some ways for the students to access, and how that might, again, build that trust or build those connections. Now, ideally, according to the framework, it should be public and easily accessible, even via mobile phone, which if you think about Word documents and you think about PDFs, that's usually not the case. And it should include a welcome video from the instructor, which again, with Word documents, you could include a link, but that can kind of get lost in between everything. So I'll show you the workaround I have for that with the regular Word document. I kind of am calling it the hybrid version. But you'll see the examples that I have. So the first example I have is using Notion. So Notion is I think officially it's like a project management site, but the idea is you can build databases on here, you can build websites on here. It's very flexible, and you can actually build a syllabus on here. So as you can see here, this is the landing page for the syllabus when you click on it. And it looks very visually appealing because what essentially you can do is you can build a database and you can have different sections. So each, I'm not sure if my cursor is showing, but you can see that each rectangle with picture is a different section of the syllabus, which is very useful because um, students can click on a certain section, they will be taken to a different page. And if you're accessing the links that I have on the chat, you'll see that. And each section has its own little, content area. It's not bogged down with a big, long document of links and policies and text. Every section can be, separated. And additionally, obviously, the most important part, you can put nice pictures, right? Which make it visually appealing. And this is also mobile friendly. If students happen to use Notion, I have had some students who happen to use Notion. There is a app that you could access this through. So there's many benefits to using Notion. It's free. You can create calendars on there as well. You can link anything you want. You can link Google Docs, Google Drives, anything. So I have the QR code. I know you can't access the link on the PowerPoint, but I have linked it in the chat. Hopefully somebody's asking to repost, but those are all there if you want to check it out. If you want to duplicate it, just let me know. I think I have to turn that on. But if you're interested in also just a site where you can kind of keep track of your tasks, your projects, I definitely recommend Notion, whether you use it on your syllabus or not. But it's definitely a good idea to start. If you're interested in building a liquid syllabus, it's a good idea to play around and just, personalize it. I don't have my welcome video linked on the landing page. According to the framework, you need a welcome video. But if you wanted to, you could have put it right above those different modules that I have shown. So it's a really good option for those who are looking to create a liquid syllabus. My second option that I have done in the past is Google Sites. Google Sites is also free. Google Sites, how the name sounds, it's actually for website building. And it's interlinked with the Google Workspace. So it's very easy to link, Google Calendars. It's easy to link Google Docs, things like that. Anything Google, you can link a Google Maps, like little area, and it's like interactive. So there's many different things you can do here. Now, the way obviously I used it was I made my syllabus, and this was a landing page. So you can see here, I have like my Bitmojis, I have an introduction, I have my contact info straight front and center. And then depending on how you view the site, you may have a hamburger menu. Hamburger menu is the three little lines, usually at the top corner, the top left corner. And when you hover over those, you'll get those menu items. Now here, the screen was wide enough, so it just opened automatically where I have the menu items on the left-hand side. For a mobile, the way students would see it, if they access through mobile, it would be with the hamburger menu. So whenever I would send out my introduction email welcoming them to the class, I would tell them, look for the hamburger menu. I would include the little symbol, because there's a symbol icon that you can include, and it looks just like the hamburger menu icon. And I tell them, look over here, hover, you'll see all the sections. So I have everything sectioned out, of course. At the top, what's good about Google Sites is you can you can have a button. And for me, I thought it was a good idea to link D2L. So they can always click that and it'll take them straight to D2L to log in. That way there's like a direct like juncture between syllabus, D2L, where all the course assignments and everything are. So you can see I had all my different menu items. You could customize it to whatever you want. You could have as many as you want. You could have less. It all depends on you. Google Sites lets you customize it as much as you want, even the colors, the background, everything. And of course, Google is like well trusted. So that's a good thing about Google Sites. And again, they're putting Harrison and I think Alex are linking everything in the chat again. If you want to visit that, you can also just scan the QR code. Okay, finally, I have what I'm calling like a hybrid version. This isn't necessarily discussed by Pacansky-Brock in the framework, but I would like to think of this as the workaround for us who need to upload the syllabi to our iStar. So that's an issue that I was having with the Google Sites and the Notion liquid syllabi, is that it was hard to export it. It was either a lot of manual work where I had to piece everything together, or it just didn't look like it was not, whenever I exported it, it didn't look right. So this is a good workaround. So here I have basically the Lone Star College Online syllabus template. However, I have input some things to make it more liquid syllabus humanizing friendly. So I always share the syllabus as a SharePoint link. I never share it as a static document, because if I make updates, it won't that won't be reflected in if a student is accessing the static document. So instead, I always share it as a SharePoint link. I have it set so that students can see it as long as they're logged into MyStar. That's the easiest way. And then I just make sure to tell my students, please make sure to be logged in. And so far, no issues with that. Um, Another upside to this is that it allows for a more uniform experience to other classes. So, for example, if Dr. Jones is also using the syllabus, then students will be able to recognize, oh, okay, this looks like my other syllabus. So that's one upside to this. Now, the humanizing elements that I have into here is I and you can visit it on the link that I have. I have a welcome video embedded. I actually have several other videos embedded. And Word actually lets you embed YouTube videos. So this is a video that I filmed and then I uploaded to my YouTube channel where I have all my instruction videos. And then I embedded it here, and I like it because you can actually, see the little thumbnail. Um, and then I have emojis for everything just because it helps break up the text. It gives, some color, some things that students recognize, and it adds that humanizing element. So advantages to liquid syllabi. Um, they are mobile friendly, usually. They are visually appealing. They engage the students more in that way. And you have real-time updates. So let's say you have your course calendar on there and you update it. You don't have to send out an entire new document and be like, hey, make sure to use this one, not that one. Everything's uniform, everything, unless, the student downloaded it. But at that point, they would know I need to download the updated version. But everything's uniform, everybody has the same version. And it has some humanizing elements where they can tell that you put in some effort of creativity, you have some personality in there, right? It's not just a boring document. Disadvantages, which I already discussed a little bit. Hard to export for iStar for us. We have to upload our syllabi, so that's very important for us. And it also may be jarring. If they're not used to it, they're probably like, what is this? So I mentioned sharing to my students about the hamburger menu, right? That was because I had gotten a few questions like, all I see is like your Bitmoji. Where's everything? So it can be jarring. But luckily, I think Lone Star is finding a syllabus tool, which like a automatically generated syllabus tool, which will, if everybody's using it, it will be uniform and it will be mobile friendly and it'll essentially be a liquid syllabus. So I'm excited for that to come. Obviously, I'm not in charge of that, none of that. But I think that is coming for us instructors. But those are everything. If you need the links again, or if you have any questions, you want to duplicate anything, just let me know.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Martinez-Maldonado, for sharing how you incorporate your liquid syllabus. I love it. So now we're moving into what I call the inclusive survey. Michelle Perkansky-Brock, she refers to this in her work as getting to know survey, which is very typical of most faculty. We always want to take time to survey our students because teaching, especially teaching an asynchronous course online, can be very impersonal. So personable. So you want to become more aware of the students who are behind the screen. So I am phrasing it as the inclusive survey. And so my definition of the inclusive survey is an instructor designed questionnaire used to elicit learners' unique needs and expectations. Simply put, it's taking a deep dive into understanding who our students are as diverse human beings. Okay, so we're going beyond their legal name, first and last name, and we want to get to know some of their expectations of us, and we want to be able to imagine and visualize the students that we are are teaching, okay? The benefits of the inclusive survey. So it gives us an opportunity to develop some authentic student connections. When we are asking our students some intimate information, we are conveying that we care and we are concerned about their circumstances, and we're here to support them along their journey. It gives us, the faculty, an opportunity to broaden our cultural awareness of our students, because we want to make sure that our course is culturally safe for our students and emotionally safe. So keeping in mind that our online classrooms are microcosms of the college in which they're situated, and also the local community, and then if we broaden it out even further, our global society, which is very diverse. And we're fostering trust. We are going to convey, if you incorporate the inclusive survey, I always share with them that this is in confidence with me. I want to get to know who you are on a personal level. I share about myself, and I want to get to know them again beyond their first and last name. So let's take a look at some questions. Just FYI, the technologist will drop the link to the actual to my inclusive survey. I use Microsoft Forms for this. If you're more comfortable with SurveyMonkey or another type of survey platform, by all means, definitely use whatever you're comfortable with. However, the purpose is crafting questions to elicit information about our students, to gain that deep awareness of who it is we're teaching and who we're working with. So the technologist will drop the link to my survey, and feel free to modify it to fit your particular expectations, okay? So as your professor, I tell them off the bat, as your professor, it's important for me to get to know you on a more personal level. And then I ask a series of questions. What is your preferred name? Students' legal names can bring trauma. I had a student tell me that he did not want to be called Joseph. He was named after his father, Joseph Jr. However, his father murdered his mother. So to hear Joseph brought some anxiety, trauma, and so he wanted to be called Jody. I had no problem with that. So some students, their names can be dead, their legal name can be dead to them, especially with some of our students who are members of the LGBTQ population. So I don't mind asking students and respecting their wishes to be called something other than their legal name. Which option is your preferred gender pronoun? What is your primary first language? There are some faculty who have said, I would like to know my students, I don't know which of my students are non-native English speakers. So the best way that we can find that data out to help us in the immediate time frame is to ask them. So what is your primary first language? What is your race and ethnicity? I understand that, again, my students are a reflection of the global society, which is not a monolith. So I'm going to have students behind the screens that do not share my same ethnicity. So I want to be able to elicit that data so that I can visualize my students, since I don't have them face to face right in front of me on a daily basis. What do you require any learning accommodations? If the student says, yes, I do, then I know I can contact disability services, make sure that student has the necessary paperwork, and I have the necessary paperwork so that I can legally provide those accommodations and help that student be successful in my course. Are you working while in school? And I also branch this question out so I can know if they're working full-time, part-time, so that gives me an idea and of how my students are sharing their time between my coursework. And this semester, 68% of my students are working full time. Do you have any children? Are you caring for someone else? Currently, 48% of my students have children. And then I also have 12% who are caring for a loved one who is ill. I have a couple of students whose parents are suffering from dementia, Alzheimer's, and receiving cancer treatments. So that information is helpful for me. do you have any extenuating circumstances that I need to be aware of? That's an open-ended question. It's a blank. Students are able to then share with me their extenuating circumstances that they are presented with at this moment in the semester. So I have had students share with me that they themselves are currently undergoing cancer treatments. I have had students share that, right now I am currently in a halfway house. I just got paroled, blah, 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 blah. Whatever it is, I have an idea and I know what my students are going through. So when Case asked me, I know you gave me a 24-hour grace period, but you know what? I had a mental crisis today. I had a breakdown. Is there any way I can get an extension? Well, I already have an idea of what Case is going through because he shared that with me already. So it's not a problem for me to extend additional time for him because I am aware of his circumstances. And then my favorite question is, what do you expect from me? I am going to share throughout the course as faculty. We share all the time what it is we expect of our students. I want to know, what does the student expect of me as their instructor? How can I make this course a positive experience for you? And so they will share that, you know what, Dr. Jones, I really would like to get feedback in a timely manner on my assignments, or I would like for you to grade my course, the work that I submit. Can you not take all semester to grade? They're really concerned about getting feedback and having their work graded in a timely manner. For the most part, I have had students say that they would like to meet with me, have access to me, uh, periodically, make sure I'm at my, can I meet with you outside of your office hours? And I have accommodated many of my students when they let me know that, because I understand that a lot of them are working full time, and I get that. So again, the inclusive survey is just a way for me to become aware of my students on that human level, to become make it more personal. And then I'm also conveying that, hey, we are in community together. Uh, I don't like to teach in isolation. And you can get that feeling teaching asynchronously, that it's in isolation, but you can also be in community with your students, even though you're teaching asynchronously. It is possible, but it does take some effort and some, especially on the front end when getting to know who our students are. So here is the QR code. You can take a picture of this screen, and also our technologists, as I stated earlier, have dropped the link to my actual survey, and feel free to modify it. Something that I want to do, I do need to add a question about dual credit, because I want to know which of my students are dual credit students. That's important for me to know. So be sure to take it and modify it however you see fit. Okay, Dr. G.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. When it comes to my section, I'm going to be focusing on presence. And this one is kind of intuitive, right? You want to make sure that the student feels that you're inside the course, and in an asynchronous class, how often do you think a student walks away after the semester and they're like, who did I take that with? So my priority as an instructor is to make sure that they can never say that about my class. And so presence, Michelle Pacansky-Brock focuses on intentional efforts to make sure that your authentic self shines through the course. So whether it's through brief, imperfect videos, right, not a curated image of yourself, you want to ensure that your students know that you're in this journey with them. And so verbal, nonverbal cues add that context to communications, which is especially important to support culturally diverse students. So one of the tenets of that is having a humanized homepage. Now, D2L has different homepages you can use to display your content. And so I look through them to make sure I wanted to provide visuals, right? Within a humanized homepage, you want it to be clear, you want it to be friendly, you want visuals to be there, including, you know, alt text. You need how to proceed. So if you see with the visual table of contents, I have start here, right there. So once you follow that, it'll take you to my intro video. Within your intro video, you want to make sure it's brief and you tell students how to proceed. Now, sort of connecting on what Dr. Jones mentioned with her introductory survey, you want to include certain things to connect with students. You want to also introduce yourself. So when I just said about making sure students remember me, I put my face, I put my Bitmoji. There's just no way that they're not going to see Dr. G's face and red hair throughout the course. And also on the like acknowledging that maybe the student isn't always on their laptop or computer, make sure that you have mobile friendly aspects to your course. So, you know, students will always have questions. So I created accordions here with frequently asked questions so that they can click through and they're not overwhelmed with a whole block of text if they're just really interested in a specific question. So Dr. Jones uses a survey. I think a lot of faculty use just a typical introduction post format, and you can simply tweak it a little bit to make it humanized. Ask students about themselves, encourage them to be honest yourself, right? I teach government, so a lot of my students do not want to be there, just realistically. And so I encourage them, like, be honest. What do you actually want to get out of the class? And so I always hope for students to want to engage with the content and learn. And like you see here in this introduction discussion post from one of my past students, I was so thrilled to see, oh my goodness, they put a Bitmoji. They talked about how they really like history, how they really want to engage with the content. But I noticed, I was like, they mentioned they have lots of pets, but they didn't include any pictures. So one way of connecting, I was like, oh, you know, I tease like, there's you mentioned you have so many pets, but no pictures. So she apologized, like, oh no, let me include the pictures. And that jump started a whole conversation within my class of people sharing their pictures and stories about their pets. Now, again, that's not going to be everybody in the class. Often you'll get students like this who say, I'm not interested in the subject. I just want to pass. I'm busy, right? I'm taking other courses. She mentioned she was worried about staying on top of work. And so the humanizing element is making sure you, take out those moments of opportunity and address those worries. So I told her, like, here are some suggestions to make sure that you get to your items on time. And so she took that and ran with it, and she did very well in the course. So having that moment to really connect with students, even who don't necessarily want to be there, is a huge thing that you can do at the beginning of the semester. Apart from, the course itself, the materials, right? Oftentimes, if you're curating course content, you're like, okay, let me present textbook content. Stick yourself in there, right? I teach Texas and federal government. If I'm talking about institutions and I happen to have visited there, I'll put a picture of myself, like, hey, here I am. That picture that I included here, I was in the Alamo. Again, I want students to see, like, I'm not just posting publisher content and they have no idea who I am. I'm actually actively involved. They see me as a person trying to reach to them as I engage with this content. All right, that's my part.
Hey, so thank you so much for sharing how you incorporate presence. So in terms of deep learning assignments, I just wanted to pose the question to the panel. If you all would like to share how you make your assignments more humanized. So I'll start, an example, because I am a teacher educator, all of my students are aspiring K-12 educators. So an assignment, anytime we can get our students to lean into the differences of others, I think that is humanizing. That is a way for us to get students to connect with people outside of our courses. And so one assignment that I like to use is I have students interview a minoritized faculty teacher. It could be, or a teacher who is of the opposite ethnicity. There is research that shows, we have a wealth of research that shows that people by nature, we typically stay in community with people who are like us. But as an aspiring teacher, it's important for me to express to them that, hey, you're going to have students in your classroom, whether you're teaching first grade, second grade, it doesn't matter. They're going to come from all walks of life. And so I do want you to have an opportunity to get and familiarize yourself and be comfortable with others who are different than you. So I do ask them to interview a teacher that is of an opposite ethnicity than they are. So that, again, to me, that really is an example for me that I use in my class to have an assignment that is part of that deep learning, real world experiential learning, and it also connects to elements of humanized teaching. So that Dr. G, Esme, Professor Martinez-Maldonado, y'all have an example?
Yeah, in the interest of time, we do only have 5 minutes left. I do want to make sure that we get to some Q&A, but I did want to mention, like, yeah, one way to sort of tie it back to the humanizing element is just have multiple assignment options, because students will have varying interests. And so if you're only providing one, then they might feel like, oh, well, I don't feel like doing this. And so providing opportunities to engage in, like, in an auditory way, maybe you watch a documentary, do something hands-on, give students options that utilize the different senses so that they engage with materials in a way that they feel comfortable with, and that will encourage that deep learning.
Students love choices, so I completely agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now we can open it up for questions, because I do want to take questions from our audience. Do we have any questions in the chat?
We do. So I do see at least one question here that has not been answered yet in the Q&A. Is it legally permissible to ask, do you require learning accommodations? I thought we weren't allowed to ask directly due to privacy and discrimination protections.
I have asked, do they have any accommodations? And the accommodations, if they do, I want to be able to make sure that I work with the disabilities coordinator to make sure that I am able to legally provide those accommodations. Most students will not self-identify. We have learned that. So, as far, I have not ran into any issues with asking if they need any type of, if they need any accommodations, because on the back end, I'm just not, taking their word. And it's confidential with me as their instructor. No one else is aware of that, and they are free to either ask the answer or not. But if they do, again, I am following up with our disability services to make sure that I am making sure that if they are, that I provide the accommodations and we have the necessary paperwork on file to make sure that we are covered legally.
All right. Well, thank you. I think we have about time for one more, and then we'll have to wrap it up here. So the next one that came in that says, how do you help students create personal relationships among their classmates?
And Alex, I will say this, I'm not asking about their disability. I just asked about the if they need any accommodations. which could be extended, we accommodate in different ways all the time for students who aren't under any type of 504 plan or anything like that. So I'm not asking them to identify their disability, which is illegal. So any other questions? What was the
Yeah,
question?
the
again?
personal relationships, right?
Okay.
I think
That'll be our last one.
yeah,
to
like
wrap this up.
starting, it's a little awkward, right? But you can ask students, hey, find a buddy or two, right? You could say just swap information with 2 or 3 other students, and initially they'll have that awkwardness of like, oh, hey, this is someone new, but then they build those connections throughout the semester and encourage them, hey, if you have any questions, create study groups, respond to each other's discussion posts, work on projects together, and having an area where you're not necessarily like an assignment area, just an area where they can talk about either just the subject in general or even their college experience, what's going on in their life, what's going on in the world. Once you open that space for people to have conversations, that humanity is just going to seep in, right? They're going to create and cultivate relationships based off of that.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I do have one quick question related to something you guys talked about in your presentation. Does Notion pose any ADA issues?
Notion lets you put in alternative text and everything. So as long as you're making the effort to fill that in, you shouldn't have any issues.
All right.
Alex, can I say one thing real quickly?
Absolutely.
And it's going to be very, very quick. So if you want to do like an inclusive survey or getting to know survey, I do get all the time from some colleagues, hey, some students, they don't complete the survey. What do I do? There are ways that you can set up conditions that will force them to complete the survey before they move on in the course. So just FYI.
All right. Well, thank you for that advice. And thank you for presenting today. Thank you so much. You have shared a wealth of information with our attendees today.